Starting take two in 3, 2, 1, go! Well, hey there, everybody. How are you? Welcome to Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. Glad to have all of you tuned in. Really are very appreciative of the matter. Roddy and I are back for yet another episode of the program. How are you, Ronnie? What's up?
I'm great.
Great.
Nice and hot. So, yes,
Sweet.
I'm back. Where it's nice and cool.
There you go. Well, that's the whole thing. Installing an air conditioner will solve that problem. Dr. JJ is at it again. Yes. That's the problem. You know what the problem is actually with that is they're too loud. So when you're talking and you have the air unit running in the background, it becomes a bit of a problem. That's why I turned mine off. Although it's actually behaved quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. So maybe I should test it once. Well, then again, I've tried, and it's like I don't want any sound in the background. I want just my voice and your voice. That's it. Nothing else in the background. Is that really too much to ask? Seriously. Come on now.
Sometimes.
I guess so, huh?
Yeah, it was to be heard.
Yeah, I guess so. But, yep, we're here. Ronnie and I are back for yet another episode of the show Take Two, and we're going to have Ronnie make it official. She's going to look in her envelope. Yeah, she's got an envelope over there that pretty much allows her to know what episode it is, but I'm sure she already knows what episode it is. But she'll reach into that envelope or envelope. I will go either way, as you know from my past.
Tomato, tomato.
Envelope, tomato. Missouri. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to have Ronnie make it official in just a moment. But before we do that, let's get this out of the way. If those of you tuned in would be so kind, as the great listeners, please visit www.theonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the listeners, will be able to find more information regarding the Voices on the Net Network. Yeah, all you need to do is go up to the top of the website, where you will see an About link. You click it, and it will take you to a web page that will provide you with everything you need to know pertaining to the Voices on the Net Network. A really excellent webpage. If you're new to the network, you know absolutely nothing about it. That webpage, if I say so myself, is pretty darn epic. Gives you everything you need to know. Great content on the website too, plus podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, plus articles and all of that. If you check it out at www.theonthenet.com, Ronnie and I would greatly appreciate it. Set it as your homepage, as some of you have already done already, which is greatly appreciated. 2, it's my homepage. Is it your homepage, Ronnie?
It's my homepage now.
See? Both of us did it. Why don't all of you follow herd mentality? We've talked about that.
Yeah.
All right, Ronnie. What episode are we at? Can you reach into that envelope, tomato, Missouri? Can you reach into that envelope and check what episode we're at?
According to the file. Episode 282.
There you go. Episode number 282 of the show Take Two. So we're edging ever so closer to that. Yeah, 300th episode, not too far off. So it's amazing. That baffles me. How are we that? No, I'm just kidding. The show is that good. Of course it's going to be. We're at 282. We're approaching 300. And it's so fun. Always an honor to be able to do it with you. And you do so much for the network. And you know how much I appreciate it. So,
yeah. So did we just get through doing 200?
Yeah.
Like 2 weeks ago?
It seems that these episodes fly by. And now, of course, we do the show Monday through Friday. So, yeah, it would probably be common knowledge that these episodes would fly by pretty quickly. But still, 282 is still a lot of episodes. So that's a lot of shows. I mean, we've been doing, up until this point, we've been doing this show. We're approaching a year and a half. So
yeah, we are.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, a year and a half, Ronnie. Oof.
I know. Do you realize, JJ, that the month of June was the first time we met on WoW? So we've actually known each other 2 years at this point.
We have. You're right.
Yeah.
Very good fact. Very good fact. All right.
And here we are.
And here we are, episode 282 of the show. And so fun to do. We have a great program for all of you. So each and every one of you tuned in. You want to stay tuned to the program. If you want to go tell your family and your friends right now to tune in, we'd appreciate that as well. We have a great program for you all. But it saddens me to have to say what I'm about to say, to announce what I'm about to announce. Obviously, you all listening have probably already heard the news. I would assume so. More than likely, you read the article at vonthenet.com, on vonthenet.com, about what happened. And really, I don't have to really say much more after I play this here. Yep. Now, we just talked about this not too long ago, literally a few episodes ago, how Clarence Clemens had suffered a massive stroke, and he had two brain surgeries, and they were telling us really wasn't a lot because due to anonymity, the factors surrounding what those involved could say or could tell the press, we didn't know really what was going on. All we had heard was that Clarence Clemens had suffered through a massive stroke. He had 2 major brain surgeries, and he was responsive, although paralyzed on one side. So we really didn't know what was going on, really. We're talking about really. Clearly, 2 brain surgeries, it was a lot worse than they had originally told us. They were sugarcoating it quite a bit, and, well, saddens me to have to announce the news nobody wanted to hear. Clarence Clemens has passed away at the age of 69, and he died Saturday, June 18th, in Florida, and he led a legacy for 4 decades, and nobody will forget, and quite sad. It was emotional all weekend, I could tell you, and I know, Ronnie, you were too. I mean, this is a guy that really changed a lot of people's lives through the power of music.
Oh, just to listen to him play the sax, the tenor sax, just to listen to him,
Right.
That would fill you up right there. You always wanted more. I mean, all week long after I learned of his passing, that's all I've listened to is Jungle Land, 10th Avenue Freeze Out.
Right.
All of his songs, blaring it out the window just for everybody to hear it. But yeah, that was a shock to hear that. I mean, we lost the best 10. We lost a
tremendous person in Clarence Clemens. I'll tell you, it must be one hell of a rock show up in heaven with all of the rock stars and musicians up there. They must be having one hell of a party, one heck of a rock show up there. We would have wished, we all wish and would have wished, and so forth, that Clarence was still on this planet with us so he could continue to grace us with his beautiful presence. But he's no longer here, but his music lives on. We're going to have his music forever, and there's plenty of it. Like I said, 4 decades plus worth of music. Truly amazing. A true talent, the definition of just the generation the definition of what music is supposed to be all about. How he spread cheer and joy through his music to everybody. And the E Street Band lost a very pivotal link. Really, really. They're never going to be the same. Never.
Never.
And
never.
I mean, I've seen Bruce in the E Street Band quite a few times. I witnessed the power of that band, how amazing they all were. They lost, of course, Dan Federici. He died of melanoma. Now Clarence Clemens. So, people, of course, wonder what's going to happen. Well, clearly Bruce is going to have to get another saxophonist, or he's going to tour by himself, solo, or with another band. But there are still other members of the E Street Band, but the E Street Band lost a very, very important member. And it's not only the E Street Band, but what Clarence did by himself with other acts and so forth. With Lady Gaga on her latest album, Born This Way, The Edge of Glory. He's in that music video with Lady Gaga. And, of course, I was looking at the video. And we'll play some of his music as we talk here. Here's Into the Blue Forest by Clarence Clemens. It's a beautiful song. Beautiful, beautiful saxophonist. Oh, my gosh. I tell you, it just sends shivers down your spine when you listen to this. It's just... I was listening to this music all weekend. I really was. Mm-hmm. But I was watching on YouTube. His last performance was the one on American Idol. Did you know that?
Yeah.
His last live performance. And I think people that watch it are he was on American Idol with Lady Gaga, and he sounded great and so forth. And, he was there, but I think many people didn't understand or didn't know that was his last performance. Mm-hmm. It was.
You noticed did it sitting down, so it kind of makes you wonder, was he feeling...
Well, Ronnie, he has a leg... Well, he had numerous leg surgeries. He had a back surgery on his spine. All through the Working on a Dream tour, he sat because he was in pain. He walked with a cane. He walked very slow. So he had other health conditions that basically restricted him to sitting while performing, because we know that Bruce puts on 3-hour shows, long shows, but he still played beautifully. Even while sitting down, he still played beautifully. Really, till the day he died, he played beautifully.
I was surprised at the number of bands that he was associated with. I had no idea. The Grateful Dead, Jackson Browne, Jerry Garcia, Ringo Starr. These are top names that he has been with and associated with. I mean, he was the top number one person that they wanted. And the comedic value that he brought to everybody. Every video as I was watching him, he had that comedic tone. Even in his interviews, he did not have a down moment, even though his health, the 2 knee replacements, the back fusion, all of that. He still had all of that comedic value all wrapped up in that big, tall man that you could just imagine when Bruce Springsteen and him first met. Remember, because he was saying, I'm a Baptist, so my version is the truth of how they met when they came through the door, almost like a Gunslinger West thing of him flying through the door flying off the hinges. And that's how he met Bruce Springsteen.
Well, yeah, there's if you've been to any Bruce shows, he talks about the story of how Clarence met, how Bruce and Clarence met, and Clarence came in similar to King Curtis coming through the door, and there was a storm down in Asbury Park, New Jersey, and the door flew off its hinges as this big guy, coming through the door. Can I play with you? And then Bruce says, "Sure."
Yeah.
And then the rest is history. And how he says it, I've seen him numerous times. It's just, I think I have it on camera too. It's just something that, you have to be there to witness it. You have to be there to experience it. And, it's like I said, it's not going to be the same. Bruce is Bruce, but Clarence Clemens was as pivotal as Bruce is in the band. Now they all play a role, each band member, but Clarence just added. You don't usually hear saxophones in a rock song. That's why it was so unique. And Bruce, of course, Clarence was his right-hand guy. I mean, we know Steve and Bruce have their own bond, but Clarence and Bruce, it was just something special. You would notice it if you were to go to shows. You would notice it, how much Bruce looked up to Clarence, and vice versa. They both were just 2 peas in a pod. It was amazing to see. It was amazing to hear the music they would
the
performances were just amazing. They really were.
I was listening to the interviews they were both giving on how they met, and both of them had this strong bond. They were saying that there was love at first sight, friendship-wise, that you could not ask for anything more special than that. They knew right out the bat just that, this is what Bruce was needing, and this is what Clarence was needing. They were both needing each other, and bam, look what we got with that.
Yep. It's just, it's unfortunate, really, to have to talk about, him dying, because, as I said before, we didn't, and I was talking about it with my mother, with some friends, we didn't know exactly how bad it was, because in the media, you never know exactly how bad something is when they're talking about it. You don't know exactly what's true and what isn't, because a stroke is a stroke. There are different types of strokes. All we heard was he had a massive stroke, then he had 2 brain surgeries, and then he was responsive. His eyes were welling up, but he was paralyzed on one side. After hearing 2 brain surgeries, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to assume, okay, this is not good. It has to be a lot worse than what they're telling us. But really, deep down inside, what they told us, if you could simply put the pieces to the board, to the puzzle, you'd be able to figure out yourself, well, this is not good. Clearly, he's in serious, serious condition.
Right.
And it doesn't really come to a surprise to anybody that really did put the pieces together in the puzzle. That he died, that he passed away due to this stroke, that it was a lot worse than maybe some people may have felt, that they sugar-coated the story rather than coming right out. And we know whoever, it was due to the anonymity factor, those that were anonymous that did give the press the information about Clarence Clemens. We didn't know, how could I put this? They didn't know what they could tell the press, in other words. They didn't know what they could tell because Clarence Clemens wasn't responsive enough to tell the press himself. So what could they tell the press about what the doctors did? What's going on with Clarence Clemens? And like I said before, it saddens me to have to say it. And I wrote an article, and it's a timelined article, actually, if you want to check it out at www.vonthenet.com. Goes through when he had a stroke up until he died, and I've been getting some great comments via email, and I thank you all, telling me how great the article is. And I appreciate that. But more so, I'd rather you check it out, read it, and appreciate the article and, what it's about. Because Clarence Clemens meant a lot to me. As a Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band fan, Bruce's music, Clarence's saxophone playing, guys, got me through a lot, and will continue to get me through a lot. It's just sad that he had to go. It is. Yeah. It is. It really is.
Well, he was on loan to us, so
yeah.
I think we were lucky to have him for as long as we did, and I think he touched everybody that was able to hear his music. I came so close to seeing them live that the day of the concert, it was actually canceled because Bruce's cousin passed away.
Yeah.
And so I did not get that opportunity to see Clarence in person.
No, that's unfortunate. Where you were ready, you were so excited, and you didn't get the chance. It's like pulled right away from you. That was sad, and we remember that. And but you still can live through the many live audio files, the DVDs, and his music, and so forth. And this is just how can this not send shivers down your spine? Songs such as Born to Run, Thunder Road, Jungle Land, as this one right here. You've got Dancing in the Dark Badlands, The Promised Land, and then his solo work and his work with other artists. Clarence, you'll be missed, buddy. You really will. Rest in peace. Clarence Clemens, the age of 69, died Saturday, June 18th in Florida. No complications and a stroke. It's so sad. It really is. Let's play the rest of this out, and then we'll move into the associations here. Rest in peace, big man. All right, let's move into the associations on this 282nd episode of Take Two, right here on the Voices on the Net network. Wondering if it is time to actually thank our sponsor right now. Or, see, from the last one to this one. And we'll thank them right before Ronnie's stamp of reparation. We'll get into the associations right now. So I know you've got a few over there for us, Ronnie. Do you want to start us off with one?
Yeah, I picked this one because the name, it was funny. It's called the Thinking Fellers Union Local, which is 282.
Okay.
It's an experimental rock group. I don't know how you're experimental, but I guess it's an experimental rock group. Is San Francisco, California, where the majority, over half of the members are actually from Iowa.
From Iowa.
The Buckeye State, yes, this is where they're from. But they actually play ambient noise, ambient sounds in their music, and it's called Feller. Therefore, you have the Thinking Fellers Union.
The Thinking Fellers Union.
Feller. F-E-L-L-E-R. The Feller.
F-E-L-L-E-R. Feller. Gotcha.
Feller.
Gotcha. Interesting. Huh. Didn't expect that one, but thank you. I've got one for all of you. This is one that really, and I'll go into it, but it just goes to show you how many unused prescription medications go unused every day. Every day. Those that abuse those medications, rather than abusing them, simply throwing them away or destroying them, for that matter. And Sammamish police have collected, and get this, destroyed a whopping 282 pounds. 282 pounds of unused prescription medications since installing the drop-off bin in City Hall back in 2009. We're talking 2 years, 282 pounds up until this point. Now, the bin collects prescription medications, particularly often abused painkillers such as oxycodone, Vicodin, which may otherwise sit around the house. Now, get this, Sammamish Police Operations Sergeant Peter Horvath stated that prescription drug abuse is very common, especially among youth who may be able to find it in their parents' or, say, their friends' parents' medicine cabinets. Now, he added, quote, "You'll find prescription drug abuse in just about every high school in the country. And according to the National Institute of Health, about 7 million Americans, or 2.8% of the population, are non-medical users of prescription medications. 2.8%, 7 million Americans suffering through, say, addiction. Those that try or abuse medications, they can't get off of them. It's an epidemic. It really is. And in Sammamish, 282 pounds, Ronnie.
Wow. Now, you just feel how light one pill is. Just one pill, put it in your hand and feel how light that is. And then
you add it up.
That poundage in there. Wow.
You add it up and you just, you're amazed at how many prescriptions go. Now, many people don't finish their prescriptions, but many people keep their prescriptions. They keep them in their medicine cabinet, for future need. If they sprain their ankle or if they have pain somewhere, they have them around so they don't have to go to the doctor again and get another prescription. But doctors will tell you, don't save them. Get rid of them. Destroy them. Because if you keep them, well, more than likely your children, if you have any, somebody in your house, are going to find out at school about how these medications make you feel. They give you a nice high, make you feel nice. They're going to find them, and they're going to start taking them and maybe to bring them to school, and then you create a bigger problem. So drug abuse, of course, we know, very common in many areas around the country and around the world for that matter. And according to the agency, I want to add this too, 1 in 12 high school seniors reported recreational use of Vicodin. Just Vicodin, not oxycodone or any other painkiller, but Vicodin, which is, I believe, one of the more popular ones. One of the more popular painkillers. I know Vicodin, they were between Percocet, which is oxycodone and acetaminophen, or Vicodin, which is hydrocodone and acetaminophen. I don't know which one are the more popular of the two, but I know Vicodin is very widely prescribed, as is Percocet. But it just goes to show you. And get this, when I add this too, since we're talking about this. Painkillers, as we know, are, and Ronnie, you know this, routine target of burglars. Many people will go to a pharmacy, try to steal these meds, hold the place up. This is how much an 80 milligram OxyContin sells for on the street. $80 a pill.
A pill?
$80 a pill. Yeah, for an 80 milligram OxyContin. OxyContin's the time released version of oxycodone. $80 a pill. Yeah. It's a lot of money.
You would go if I was on it because I'm under the table.
Well, OxyContin is a very potent drug. Oxycodone in general is very potent, but wow, just to hear 282 pounds of unused prescription meds in Sammamish since the drop-off bin was created back in 2009 at City Hall. Pretty crazy. All right, funny law time. Funny law before getting into Ronnie's stamp of reparation. Do you have funny law for us, or a couple?
I have two of them.
Right.
One is in Wisconsin. This is a regulation of trade law 282, and the senator there, whose name is Midge, they call her Miller Woman's Right, whether she was called Midge in the 1970s, introduced a bill that made it illegal to tattoo someone under the age of 18. But the reason why she did it and put it into legislation is because she states this: I have to save the buttocks of all juveniles in Wisconsin.
What?
So she saved all those buttocks by introducing that law.
Wow. What about
she
another?
Saved mine because I wasn't in Wisconsin.
There you go. No, you're not. You're in Nebraska. How about another one, Ronnie?
In Australia, these laws, their codes are so different. It's 282 paragraph 3, where you have to wear a swimsuit, which is from the neck to the knees, complete coverage, to be able to swim at Brighton Beach in Australia.
You can't wear a bikini.
Nope.
Darn.
I'm
not going there.
I guess what do you call those 1930 swimsuits? It covers just everything.
Come on.
All the important parts.
Shed some skin. What's wrong with that?
But if you want to go to Brighton Beach, no, you've got to wear a complete. You might as well wear a fur coat there, I guess, because you can't wear anything else.
Keep me away from Brighton Beach. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's head into Ronnie's stamp of reparation on this 282nd episode of Take Two, right here on You Got It, the Voices on the Net Network. Actually, before we get into that, just briefly, I want to thank our sponsor. That is right, Audible. This portion of the 282nd episode of Take Two is brought to you by Audible.com, and we thank Audible for their generous support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net Network. Now listen up, ladies and gents, because Ronnie and I have a great offer for you, and you don't have to spend a dime, a single cent. Serious. Great deal, great offer. You're going to want to take advantage of this, where you'll get one free audiobook and a 14-day free trial to browse over 85,000 audiobooks and counting. The premier service on the web when it has to do with audiobooks. An awesome service. Ronnie and I are both subscribers. We enjoy it immensely. We know you will too. And you don't have to put any risk into it whatsoever. You get one free audiobook and a 2-week free trial. If you go to www.audibletrial.com/take2 right now, audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of this great offer. Heck, even if you're not an avid reader, say you'll pick up a book every now and then. Traditionally, you'll read a paperback book or a magazine. More than likely, you enjoy watching movies or TV shows. Say you enjoy listening to podcasts, radio shows. The auditory experience over a visual experience is one in itself. Rather than laying, say, on your couch, holding the book up, you're tired, you want to relax, but you want to finish the chapter, but you're too tired, so you can't. Well, listening to an audiobook allows you to do that. You just simply plop your head down, put your headphones on, you listen to your audiobook. And the good thing about this audiobook experience at Audible is the voiceover artists, they make the books interesting. They add the dramatic appeal. They add the comedic appeal. They add engagement to it. They'll engage you, and you should check it out at least. Check it out. What do you have to lose? One free audiobook and a 14-day free trial at audibletrial.com/take2. As always, we thank Audible for their support of Take-Two as well as the Voices on the Net Network. All right, Ronnie, you've got the mic. A few minutes here. What do you have for us for your stamp of reparation?
Well, this one actually comes from your neck of the woods.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, Summit, New Jersey. Appears like they've got a little problem, I guess, going on out there with, kids going to school and, parents just having to, put their children on video. Oh, my gosh. Heaven forbid. They are concerned, get this. I see so many constitutional flaws. It's not funny. That they are going to make it to where, this is what they're wanting to do, the school board is wanting to add a new policy stating that parents are not allowed to videotape or record or take pictures, photographs of children, including their own, because they don't want them on YouTube or Facebook. Exploiting, this is what they're calling it, falling under exploitation of the children. This is a no-flaw policy. When you consider that if you are taking a picture, does this also mean your school yearbook? Right. Should that also be banned? Is this going to be banned as well? Or how about a newspaper that comes in and photographs that sports team, that football playoff, that hit basketball,
right?
Sinking? Are they going to say, can't do it unless parents all give permission because they don't want their children exploited? Since when have we gone from technology to exploitation in our school system with the parents? These are their children. They're concerned. The one thing that really kind of ticked me off about this article is stating that, that they're concerned that they're going to get that someone is going to kidnap their children from here and use them to go after their parents. Do you realize that the kidnapping facts so far completely outflaw this? It's unfunny. This actual statistics that 49% of any kidnappings that go on are actually done by family members. Right. 37% are done by acquaintances. Less than 15% are actually done by strangers, and these are usually your sex-related cases, and they are not on your educational campuses. So this completely flies into the face of anything else that's going on, but let's just not go there. It's also with the state law because they also have a bill that was introduced, but get this, 3 Republicans, so this is a Republican-introduced bill, that will also ban photography, video recording of anything of children in the state of New Jersey. So this means that if you are at, let's just say, the Jersey Beach, taking pictures of your child digging in the sun or digging in the sand, and another child just happens to get into the lens at the point you click it, right, you can be arrested. That is so wrong. This is public. We are allowed to be into public and take pictures of your children. Now, if you choose to put them on YouTube, I guess that is your opinion, but I think it's most of the time students have cell phones. Are they not putting their own pictures, their own videos already on YouTube, and you're going after the parents? I don't think this is really going to fly into the face of the United States Constitution. Number one, the First Amendment and the Fifth Amendment all play a big role in this. It's too broad. Yeah. If this school wants to implement this, good luck trying to do so, because they can't enforce it, because this is a school policy. Right. A policy is not enforceable beyond the fence of that school itself. This is so wrong. Why are they allowing this to occur? Because one guy a year ago in his 60s video recorded a swim meet of students that were there. This sounds to me more like a flaw in security. Why did you allow somebody that was there at that age, had no children there, no grandchildren there, able to get fly the pants and be able to go and record this? By the way, he was never charged in this. But they're upset. I can understand. I would be upset if my child was there and this guy said that he thought 8 to 12, 10-year-olds were sexy. But would not be sitting there saying, well, okay, because of that, now I'm going to put a whole blanket statement across everybody that nobody is allowed to bring in a video camera. That's going way too far.
Right. One person ruins it for everybody else. The fact is that, listen, cameras have become a major part of our society. You go outside to record... You go outside to record a group of deer walking across the road, and there's somebody in the corner of your camera that is suing you for recording them when you weren't really focusing on them. So we've talked about stories where, we've talked about it. Remember, it had to do with a crime that went on. Somebody was taking a video or a video of, I guess, an animal that was along the side of a highway or something, and there was a drug deal going on in the background, and that person was caught because of that camera that they uploaded to YouTube. Apparently, I believe it was YouTube or the internet, and they found the guy and they caught him and put him in jail, and all because of the camera. Now it just goes to really show and prove to you how far cameras can go when they're recording certain things out there. What can you do? What can you post on YouTube, but not get in trouble if you do infringe on somebody's privacy? And cameras have become a very, very viable part of our society. And you don't want people to be unsafe. You don't. You don't want to be. You don't. You really don't. But the fact of the matter is, when we have, people that are out and about, nobody's going to live in a bubble. Nobody's going to live in a bubble. Nobody's going to walk around hiding from cameras, are they? Or it baffles me, because people are going to live life. There are going to be cameras out there. There are cameras on your smartphone. There are cameras on your iPad. You have digital cameras. The cameras are everywhere. It's everywhere. Like, private areas, private businesses that want to try and keep people from recording files or so forth. They don't want people to utilize their cameras. Well, you can't take your cell phone out. You take your cell phone out, they're going to be suspicious. You're going to be taking video or pictures of files. You go into City Hall, or you go in, police station, your local police station. It's become quite a mess, actually.
It is. The cameras and video, everything is used to protect a moment in time. Right. And when you have a school, you have parents there, they're protecting a moment of time. Their child is in band, their child is in sports. It's an eventful moment. What about graduation? You're there to take pictures of graduation. You want to put it on Facebook because you have family members that maybe even out of the country. Right. And you utilize Facebook for family, interfering between the two of you as it goes on. But you can't do it because, hey, now it's going to be called a crime. So now you cannot preserve that moment. You can only do it in pictures. I mean, we are in a technological age that we share photos. We put it on our websites. We utilize that type of social networking to be with family and friends so they could see. You have the right to decide of who can see it and who cannot. But to state that because another child is in there, and now you have to get permission from that child's parent. You have a class of 200 people, students. You got to get 199 people to sign off and stating that they are okay with, you putting that picture on your Facebook or maybe on your family profile. Right. How wrong is that?
It's a situation that is very controversial. There are going to be people that are going to debate it. They're going to talk about it. There are going to be a lot of people that are for this. There are going to be a lot of people that are against this. The fact that people don't want their children to be at risk and so forth. But how are you going to stop millions of people out there? There are almost 700 million people on Facebook from posting photos to Facebook. And you brought up a good point at the beginning of the segment. Does it stop at yearbooks and so forth, or you want to post your yearbook picture on your Facebook profile that happens to include other people, other students in that picture? And there really is no easy answer to this question. There is no easy answer, but I know the way that and Summit is a very liberal town. I'll tell you that right now. My town's a very liberal town. So keep that in mind when talking about this, and also listening, that this is the case. So we'll see what happens with it. Again, I'll follow it. I'm glad you did go into it to talk about it, as this is a situation that where the Summit Board is considering a policy to discourage posting photos or videos of students online and so forth. So
good luck.
Yeah,
may have to take out their security system.
Maybe. All right. We do have to head to the break on this 282nd episode of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. But don't go anywhere, ladies and gents, because Ronnie and I have a lot coming up. We really do. What we're going to be talking about during the second segment, well, one of them, do curfews do more good or do more harm than good for kids? Think about it. Should there be curfews? Regulations on curfews. Oh, but Jimmy's mother lets him stay out 2 hours longer than me. That's not fair. Well, is it? Well, if you think about it, are bad guys going to necessarily want to be in the public eye? What is the goal of a bad guy? Somebody that's robbing a place or wants to. They want to get out of the dodge of police officers. So are they really going to be in the public eye? They're going to want to conduct business maybe back alleys or away from the public. So regardless of somebody, say, maybe walking down to the corner store at 9 o'clock at night versus 12 o'clock in the afternoon, should there really be a curfew? Well, the thing is, do you really want your kid walking around at night versus in the daytime? That's really a debate in itself, daytime versus nighttime and so forth, because a curfew clearly, get inside before 9, get inside before 11, or a personal curfew, not necessarily a town curfew, but a personal curfew, say, from your parents. They want to protect their kids. But the bias really shows, or not the bias, but the debate really shows that there are going to be people, say bad guys, are going to be around during the day too. So you have that to talk about as well. Ronnie and I are going to discuss the curfew here, and whether or not they do more harm or do more good than harm, or vice versa for kids that are under certain strict curfews and so forth. Is it just care from their parents or care from the town? So we'll talk about that, and also another topic we may get into, Ronnie and I. We'll see if we have some extra time here that has to do with Google and a company that wants to sue them for billions of dollars and so forth. And yeah, we may get into that if we have some time. Also, your blast from the past coming up at the end of the program. You don't want to go anywhere, folks. We have a lot coming up. Ronnie and I return right after the break, so stay tuned. And we're back. That is right. Ronnie and I are back. We've returned from break for the second segment of this 282nd episode of Take Two, right here on the one and only Voices on the Net Network. And we appreciate all of you tuned into the program. We do. We really do. And we've got a great second segment planned for you. We're going to talk about whether curfews do kids more harm than good. Your blast from the past also coming up too. Maybe another item, maybe another topic if Ronnie and I have time. We'll see. But before we get into the first item on the itinerary, if all of you tuned in right now would be so kind, as the great listeners, please visit www.theonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the listeners, will be able to find more information regarding the Voices on the Net Network. Now listen up. So all you have to do is go up to the top of the website where you will see the About link. You click it. It'll take you to a web page providing you everything you need to know pertaining to the Voices on the Net Network, and in thorough detail. A great part of the website. If you're a new listener and you know absolutely nothing about the network, that page will give you everything you need to know. You can also check out podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows, and they're all available on demand for at your very own convenience. Really a lot of features, a lot of great parts of the website, great content. Check it out at www.theonthenet.com. All right, Ronnie, so here we go. Do curfews do more harm than good for kids? Do curfews keep teens out of trouble? If you think about it, you have personal or family curfews. You have city or town curfews. that basically state you need to be in your house by a certain time or we're going to come and get you. But we all know how we were when we were teens and we were kids. We loved to sneak out. We loved to stretch that limit, see how far we can go. But without a curfew, well, you wouldn't even have to do that because, there's nothing to stretch, at least pertaining to that. There's quite a bit around this here, which is why I added this to the itinerary, and I know you have a lot to say about this one. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you have to say. So you've got the mic. The mic is yours, Ronnie. What do you have to say about this here?
Well, there's 300 divisions in jurisdictions in the United States that actually have the curfew laws. Mm-hmm. These are not states, just ordinances done by different cities, depending on the type of crime that is going on. If a jurisdiction, such as my jurisdiction, has a high juvenile crime rate related to gang activity, so therefore we do institute a curfew law that is usually instituted seasonally, mainly during the summer, and that is, at midnight, anybody under the age of 17 or 18 rather is not allowed out. As far as associating with other juveniles, such as, the law clearly states, and most ordinances clearly state this, that it allows time range for those that are going to and from work. Let's just say they have a paper route and they have to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. It is that they are also considered in this, that it does not conform to them if that's what they're doing. They're running an errand for their parents, an emergency situation. They can even be in their own front yard for all that matter. As long as their parents if they're out with their parents, there's no big deal. But the bigger issue is here, the reason why it was passed was because of the gang activity and youth violence that was going on. Because, it's not the police department to babysit kids. They're out there to try to ensure public order. And that was part of this issue with the juvenile debate that's been going on for a number of years, was to instill and help establish the goal of that jurisdiction, which is to reduce crime. And the reason why they were introduced was not based on government perception, but it was based on community perception. So this was community-supported ordinances that are instilled based on the crime activity. So I am in the pro of this because it does instill that and does help decrease that type of crime.
Right, but is it as lucid if you think about it? When you talk, I'm glad you brought up those areas that happen to have more gang-related activity around, or a city, regardless of whether it's in the day or during the evening, or regardless of if it's in a back alley or out in the public, there's going to be probably more crime because it's a gang or gang-related neighborhood, whereas there are places that are very quiet. Doesn't necessarily mean there aren't any bad guys out there, anybody that are causing mischief, but it's just not as imminent as if there are as areas that do have gang-related activity. That instill curfews because they want to protect innocent children out there. That if they're walking, even if they're walking around the block at 9:30 at night and the curfew set at 9 o'clock in an area that has gang-related activity, that is, they want to protect their kids, and you would hope the parents would before that because it's not only, and you bring up a good point, that it's not necessarily up to the cops to babysit the kids in the community. They simply follow a law that was instilled, and you hope that the mothers and the fathers out there also do the same, that the police officers and the parents both do their part to make sure everybody is protected the way they're supposed to be protected. But now this is where the teens and the kids come into play. They're always going to try and stretch the limits. Always.
Oh, yeah.
And that's common knowledge. It's discernible. Come on now. Seriously, we were all teens at one point. We were all kids at one point. We remember that ever so eminent, ever so prominent statement. Oh, but Ma, Jimmy gets to stay out 2 hours longer. I don't care, honey. You're in by 9 o'clock. So that sounds a little late anyway. Depends how old you are. Should a 14-year-old have the same curfew as a 17-year-old? Well, there's another debate. But the fact of the matter is there are going to be kids and teens that are going to stretch the limits, and curfews are clearly in place to protect people. We know that. However, this is another point. Another reason I bring this up is it's true to the fact that if you are a bad guy, if you're somebody that wants to cause mischief, You're going to want to do it. Are you going to want to do it out in the open, or are you going to want to do it, say, away from the public? Your goal as a bad guy is to stay away from the cops, to get away from the cops. So you're going to want to get as far away from the cops as possible. Then again, if you're the cops, you're probably thinking in the minds of a bad guy, let's hang around the places that are not in the public eye. But just regardless of that, if you're a bad guy, you're probably going to stay away from the public area. So if somebody is walking down the street to the corner store at 9 o'clock at night and you're 14 or 15 years old, more than likely there aren't going to be bad guys around there because, well, that's a public place. So that's another debate, another factor to add to this debate. Where do you stand with that there? Or do you feel, well, it's overall, it's widespread, forget it. Listen, a bad guy can any type of crime anywhere. It doesn't matter if it's probably in a back alley or if it's in the public eye, Ronnie.
Well, but with my experience is that usually the bad guy that is 25 versus the bad guy that is 17 think completely differently. Mm-hmm. Crime, if you look at the Uniform Crime Reports, clearly states that your most violent crimes that you have occur within the adult population, this is not even with the juvenile population, occur between usually 2 and 4 in the afternoon. Why is that? That's because the majority, if you look at your food chains, you look at your gas stations and so forth, that's when they have the most amount of money on them. So therefore you have the highest probability of robberies that occur, which are your violent crimes to begin with. However, in the juvenile population, they don't do it a crime basis on a one-on-one. It is a group-on-one. So they feel that they are, regardless if it's day, night, whatever, they tend to be more, they believe in that herd mentality, one follows the other. So they go out and commit crimes based on the numbers versus actually the one. Very seldom do you see a juvenile crime where it's just one juvenile. It's usually a group of juveniles. Just recently, for instance, and we're talking probably about 7 o'clock at night here where I live, this is in Omaha, there was a mother with 2 children, a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old. She lived the same complex. She left the 9-year-old in charge of the 5-year-old for less than 5 minutes. She went into the house to grab her cell phone and grab her wallet because the ice cream truck would be coming by.
Right.
When she came back, 3 was 17-year-old and 2 16-year-olds sexually molested the 5-year-old little girl.
Oh, boy.
All 3 in less than 5 minutes at 7 o'clock at night, broad daylight in a park. So teenagers act more in a group herd mentality. One follows the other. There's always a leader and there's always a follower. But they never do crime one-on-one. It's more of a group of influence, a group of threat. A bigger group equates a bigger threat. And this is what your ordinances are, the curfews are trying to prevent, is that group. Because when they are together, that's when problems start to occur. The mischief starts to happen. Separately, you just do not see that. You very seldom do you see one juvenile coming in to juvenile court that does not have a history with other juveniles and hanging around those juveniles. It's usually done as a group. And in my case, most recent case, 3 juveniles under the age of 17 within 5 minutes committed a sexual molestation of a 5-year-old.
Right. And then you also, and you brought this up before regarding those that have jobs and so forth, that happen to surpass the curfew time. And if they don't have a ride home, they walk home. A police officer sees you walking home, they get in trouble. You have areas, scenarios that are going to affect that portion of a curfew law. And you brought up that there are 300 individual towns out there that have local curfew laws out there. Now, I've been reading, and there are plenty of stories online that talk about kids that break curfews or kids that were harmed. So towns have instilled a curfew law because they want to protect their citizens. Towns that were once quiet before, but due to one incident, it's one incident too many, and they've instilled a curfew law because they don't want anything else to happen. However, due to one incident, usually one person ruining it for everybody else, where you have places that you multiply that by 50 a day, and that's what occurs in certain areas around the country. There are plenty of places in New Jersey, Camden for once, which is a very horrible place in terms of crime. Scary. Very, very
It
scary,
is.
very frightening. And you would obviously instill, if I were to compare Camden to Summit, you would rather instill a curfew law in Camden than in Summit, New Jersey. Seriously, that's common knowledge.
Big time. I mean, that's the number one crime city in America right now is Camden, top of the list. Yeah. But usually with a police officer, when they see juveniles out, usually, from my experience, you might see one or two and you don't really pay attention to it. That's fine. You just kind of, because you have other bigger issues on the plate. However, if you've known that there is a big problem in this area, in a particular area within a jurisdiction, and you notice the same too, you tend to think differently. And now that is up to your discretion as a police officer. Most generally, the police officer will pick up the kids and take them back to their home because, the criminal justice system is already full of enough criminals the way it is, besides making more criminals out of juveniles, even though their record would be expunged. But still, the majority of police officers, as long as they're in their good mood, because you still have those bad apples out there, those that want to make a point, that usually the police officer will bring them home to the parents and make the parents responsible. If not, they're going to pay that $500 fine, and maybe they might think a little differently. But most jurisdictions put this in place because the summer months, we already know from statistical stance that heat plays a huge role within crime, and that's both in the adults and in the juvenile, but more so in the juvenile sector because school is out, there's less things to do. They tend to populate together. That's when problems occur. And the heat plays a bigger role with aggression, that type of activity that can go on in these certain jurisdictions. Now, does this cover, like you stated, Summit versus Camden? Summit would have its own jurisdiction depending on what their crime statistics are in that. Now, if a citizen happens to have a complaint, because jurisdictions are controlled by community organizations, namely neighborhood watch programs. So the community themselves will instill it. But a lot of people in those types of communities, mine included, because I don't live in Omaha, I live on the outside. Right. Neighborhoods tend to work together. They know who belongs to who and where you should be at and when. So everybody's a parent to someone's kid, whether or not you gave birth to that kid anyway. So you know what's going on. But when you have these bigger places such as Camden, Omaha, the bigger jurisdictions, much, much harsher conditions and more violent, especially in the summertime.
Right. Many feel that, instilling curfew only going to place that restriction on teens and or kids that don't deserve it because they're going to be home if their parents says they're going to. If their parents says, listen, you have to be home by this time, you're home by this time. Whereas if the town instills a curfew law and somebody decides to break it when they're coming home from, or it just breaks because they're coming home from the part-time job or wherever they're coming home from, they get in trouble. If there was no curfew law instilled, well, in other words, police are still going to do their job. They're still going to see if something's suspicious. In other words, they're going to take care of it. Something seems suspicious, they're going to take care of it. That's that. So instilling a curfew law over personal or family curfew laws, because clearly, if you're a mother or father, you're going to be concerned for the safety of your child after dark. Whereas clearly. And another debate in itself is when do crimes occur in certain areas. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to occur after 9 o'clock. Clearly, you would feel okay out in the open at night in the dark. Clearly, there aren't many lights around. You probably have a better chance of committing a crime in the dark as opposed to during the daytime. But in so many places, that's not even the case. It just. And that goes to show you, well, look, should we instill a curfew in between 2 o'clock in the afternoon and 4 o'clock in the afternoon? Necessarily can't do that because people need to walk from point A to point B. People need to go out. So when do you really do it? And that's the debate. That's the argument right there, is when to instill a curfew. When is the proper time? Is there a proper time? Because there are always going to be bad guys that are going to look at that time. They're going to try and alter their own schedule to try and break, in other words, do bad things, create mischief, just abiding by whatever curfew laws are in place and so forth.
Yeah, for some juveniles, they think, laws are made to be broken and they live by that persona.
Right.
But, if you were able to assess at what time of day a crime is going to occur, we'd all be millionaires. All police departments would not have to worry about a budget in that instance, but we just can't do that. During the day, we try, I think it basically goes on because, curfew laws have been in effect, started to come in the United States in the 1800s when the juvenile population started to become more advanced with their crime. You think about 1800s and you look at, here we are in the year 2011, how far advanced we have come, and yet crime is still very, very rapid if you compare it back to that day and age. So that even though the crimes themselves have changed from the violent perception versus the 1800s, they were set in place for this purpose. But as if you look at it, a lot of single households that are going on where the mothers are working 2 jobs or the father is absent, therefore the child goes out, the teenager mainly, because these are mainly enforceable between the ages of 14 and 17, 18 in some states.
Right.
Because this is the age factor when the juvenile process and then they start to hanging around and the trouble starts to begin. You also look at your jurisdiction. What are the age groups that tend to cause the most violence?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just not violence. We're talking about taggers. These are ones that also go around spraying their graffiti, their painting, and so forth. And this is private property, things that go on. These are the types of crimes that they're trying to not, you cannot stop them. There's no way to stop them, but you can at least enforce it. The parents are not going to put their foot down and take control of the kids. Then somebody has to do it. And that's why that's a jurisdictional proposal, because communities have had enough.
Right.
And when they've had enough, this is where you get the ordinances from. The state, does not enforce these. Although California, and I do believe Hawaii, is one of the next, the 2 right now most prominent, are going to influence based on statewide. And I think that is wrong. And that would be fly in the face of the Constitution, because you cannot take a blanket coverage and state that so-and-so's jurisdiction doesn't have any crime as far as the juvenile population, but the one next to it does. So therefore, we're going to put a blanket approach.
But is it as erroneous?
That would be wrong.
Is it as erroneous if you think about what people are going to do to cause mischief in a town where people are going? They're going to find a way, or they're going to find a way. People that are going to cause mischief, or teens in general, they're going to find a way to do whatever it is they were going to do in the first place, regardless of whether there's a curfew in place or not. You've got the debate that ensues over the fact that creating a curfew could create can turn innocent people into criminals because they're breaking a law, technically, they're breaking a rule. Somebody that didn't expect to break a curfew, but they did because there's one in place, and they didn't even know there wasn't. There was one in place after a certain time. They just so happen to be walking home from wherever they're walking home, and they get caught. So there are a lot of counterproductive measures that are put into this argument that you go over and you talk about as to how effective they are, how effective these certain laws are. Clearly, we want to protect anybody for that matter. You don't want anybody to get hurt. It's just a simple answer to that question is, well, isn't that what the police officers are there for, if you think about it? But restricting certain people from doing certain things at certain times and it seems counterproductive, because there are other points of the day that aren't necessarily immune from mischief. It's just, all right, well, it's nighttime, it's after dark. You feel the risk is more there as opposed to, say, 12, 1, 2, 3 in the afternoon to place a law or curfew law at that specific time period, or after a specific time period and before, after 9 and before 6 and so forth. You feel that that's the worst time to be going out, as opposed to, say, early in the morning, where you're clearly going to have to go to school or go to work if you're, older. Or if you're in the middle of the afternoon and so forth. So there are counterproductive measures to be added to this argument that I think play a pivotal role in talking about how to protect the safety of people and citizens.
It just depends on that. You got to think about also the police department during the day have a lot more personnel on call and on the roads and out there and show force. And at night, you just do not have that, especially on weekends. You got to show a force over half.
So you
night.
Pop a law in there if there's not. So basically, you're saying if there's not enough help at night, in the nighttime hours, you pop a law there that would simply keep kids or people off the streets until they're are enough people on task?
No,
to work?
I mean, I'm just saying that because it's not the role of the officer to be a parent to your children. There has to be some kind of responsibility, but it's
Well,
also
obviously.
responsibility of that jurisdiction to ensure that at this particular time, when there's other crimes that need to be dealt with at this particular time, that there's not enough manpower on the streets
Right.
to be in all areas at the time. It's like, come on, do your part. Don't leave it all on us and then blame us because something happens in your community because you didn't play your role. I mean, it's called community policing. And that's where the police department and the community, you're working together as a unit. You're working toward that same goal. And usually the ones that are complaining about the curfew laws are the ones that are not part of that goal, that they just don't care. I've come across parents that just do not care about what their kids, they make it your fault. Well, why weren't you watching them? It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Nowhere in my job description does it state that I am your child's parent or legal guardian. Nowhere does it state that. That is your job, your role. But then when something would happen to them, all of a sudden it falls back on the police. That is the wrong assumption. Can community and the police work together? You hope.
Right.
In some jurisdictions,
but unfortunately, there are communities out there that are less cooperative than others because they may have more gang-related activity, more crime, and that just you're going to simply say, well, that's the way it is. That's human nature. There are going to be areas out there that are more worse off than others. One can simply pan that off to that, and they're a lost cause, and that's the way it is. Just restrict those that happen to be innocent or happen to live in an area that has a lot of crime involved within the city lines, that they don't do anything wrong, these innocent people that have to deal with the crime on an everyday, on a daily basis. And there are regulations and restrictions on these innocent people.
Yeah, it is. I've learned in my classes that crime, when you talk about gang units and juvenile crime, starts from the West Coast and migrates to the East Coast. The effects of the crimes migrates from the East Coast and goes to the West Coast. Yeah. That is an interesting concept because usually your bigger gangs, bigger juvenile problems start off in California. And California is the #1 top-notch state that has the highest juvenile crime in the country. And it just kind of reflects from back then because here in Omaha, we have juvenile gangs that are usually border-related and not generated from here to begin with. They migrate to this location. So we as law people, you look for those type of migration habits and those type of juvenile habits. So you start off in California. That's where you start off with your foundation to find out what's going on there. And then you have a planning stance and action before it hits your area. But sometimes, even with these curfew laws, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and you also have those that feel, all right, well, there's no reason a child should be out after dark. Again, I go back to the point, well, if they can't be out, why? All right, here's the question I asked to you that, go back to the fact, why shouldn't they be out at night? Because it's after dark, because it's not light out, because you can't see the child in the street if you're driving, because there's traditionally going to be more crime in an after dark situation as opposed to, say, during the afternoon hours. All right, going back to that, or maybe not going back to that, but now moving forward here, if you are one of those that feels there shouldn't be a reason a child should be out after dark at night, a curfew is not really restricting anybody's liberties or anybody's just what they can do and so forth. If you are one of the people that feel that way, that a curfew is not restricting anything, it's after a certain time. Your parents should be doing what they're supposed to be doing in the first place by saying, listen, you're in after a certain hour. That's the way it is. Now, again, you talk about those that have areas that have just more crime related than other areas. That one area would just happen to be safer to walk around after 9 o'clock as opposed to another area that if you walk around at 7 o'clock, or even 3 o'clock in the afternoon, are those areas that have more crime related really determining the determining factors between, say, 9 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 12 o'clock in the afternoon? Regardless of what time it is, they're going. You're not going to be safe walking around those areas. You're not, because it happens to be a high crime area. So unfortunately, there are areas that have to instill certain. And I know it sounds, it's not necessarily counterproductive because people are going to, again, find a way to break certain laws. They're going to find a way to stretch the limits. That's the way it is, right? But in an area that happens to have more crime related, is there a difference between, say, going out at 9 o'clock as opposed to, say, going out at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or, say, 12 o'clock? Because you have crime going on in those areas regardless. They clearly,
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree. I call that, this is Ronnie's termination, the boogeyman effect, because people tend to think that, oh, it's dark. It's the, that's when the boogeymen come out and the bad people come out. Oh, they're out at all hours, no matter what. Crime doesn't have a specific time it's going to happen. It's going to happen. But
right.
I think the reason why they implemented, like most jurisdictions, are 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock during the summer for juveniles is the fact that, look, there's no department stores open. Most of your fast food joints are closed. What are you doing out past? I mean, I was always told that anything past 12 is trouble. So therefore, I had to be in by 11. Depending on my age, but I think that's the biggest issue. But it's the boogeyman effect that people think that crime only occurs at night. If you can only walk down an aisle, an alley at a certain time of day, you're safe. I don't care where you are, no matter where you walk. If it's not safe at night, it's also not safe during the day. Right.
It's right. You still a curfew law at 9 o'clock. After 9 o'clock, you stay inside. Those that are creating mischief are going to start doing things during the day. Install a curfew law during the day. Well, what are you going to do? Install a curfew law both times, and you're going to restrict people's liberties regardless because people are going to work around those laws. These mischievous people, the people that are causing problems, causing crime. What are you going to do? Clearly, you're not going to take the law. You're not going to lift the law at night because it's after dark. So those that are creating mischief are going to move to a time where people are out and about. It just so happens that it's daytime, so there probably are more cops around to take care of those that are, say, walking around, and those that are not supposed to be doing those that are looking for trouble, in other words, but they happen to get away with it. Well, after that, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, does a police officer or, say, a town or a city still a law at that certain time? This happened at this time. Let's instill a curfew law between 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. You're not going to do that. But at night, there's the exception because it's after dark. Just because it's dark. That's it. Just because it's dark. And common knowledge would say, well, if you have a kid, do not send your kid out after dark. It's nighttime. You should be in, and people sleep during the evening. That's the way that is. So think of it that way. There's a line that's drawn between having a curfew law set in place as opposed to not having a curfew law set in place, but having the parents do what they're supposed to be doing, and that's keeping their kids safe anyway. If you were a parent right now, would you want your kid out at 10 o'clock at night? Probably not. No. You would want them inside because probably, they have homework to do. You can eat dinner at 6, 7 o'clock at night anyway, so you want them in between 6 and 8 o'clock anyway. That's just your rules. Not a law, not a town law, not a city law, not a state law, not a country law. It's a rule. Common sense. That's it.
I was always told that street light comes on, you better be home.
Right.
I hated daylight savings time.
It's just we presume that certain things happen at certain times, and the easy fix is let's instill a law. Let's put a law on it, and that's going to fix it, which it really is, believe it or not, going to totally fix it. It may make things a bit better, but again, remember this, and remember it always. One person ruins it for everybody else. Not everybody's a criminal, but I could tell you there are plenty of innocent people that, may not technically be criminals, or no, they're technically criminals if they break a curfew law. They're innocent people. Plenty of people break a curfew law when they don't even know there's a law in place and they feel like a criminal. And is it then the police officer's job to say to the kid, no, you're not a criminal, buddy. No, you're not a criminal, honey. It's okay. Is it? So you bring that up too. There's the fact that there are crimes that are worse off than simply breaking a curfew, like, say, running a stop sign or stealing or something along the lines of that. And then you have somebody that just happens to be walking home from school because they can't get a ride after a certain time where a curfew's been set, and they're caught. So it just... Then you have the police officers blame, well, why didn't you go and pick your kid up? Why are they walking home after dark? And then you get into that spiel and blah, 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 blah. It just... I wanted to go into this because you brought up some great points. I always look forward to what you have to say. And when it comes to the law side of things, I can trust what you have to say because you have a lot of knowledge in your back pocket. when it has to do with the law side of things, which is why I wanted to go into this here. We could seriously go into a lot more, but we do have to head into the blast from the past on this 282nd episode of Take Two right here on the Voices on the Net Network. But before we do that, it is time to thank our sponsor. Yeah. That is right. This portion of the 282nd episode of Take Two is brought to you by Audible.com, and we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net Network. Now listen up, ladies and gents. I got a great deal for you. Ronnie and I have a great deal for you, and there's no risk involved. You don't have to spend a single dime. You don't. All you have to do in order to take advantage of one free audiobook and a 14-day, a 2-week free trial to browse over 85,000 audiobooks. Yeah, great service. Is go to audibletrial.com/take2. Yep. audibletrial.com/take2 to take advantage of a free audiobook and a 14-day, 2-week free trial. Over 85,000 audiobooks, always adding great audiobooks to the mix. And the thing is, even if you're not an avid reader, folks, the chances are you enjoy listening to media on your computer, say watching movies or television shows. The auditory experience, yeah. You go back to when you were a little kid and your mother or your father would read you a bedtime story. Similar to that, only these voiceover artists, they're professionals. They will engage you. They have the dramatic appeal. They have the comedic appeal to the books. I think you'll like it. I think you would. I think you will. Ronnie thinks so, too. We're both subscribers. We enjoy it immensely. We think you will, too. You know, you have nothing to lose, though. Get your free audiobook and your free trial at audibletrial.com/take2. As always, we thank Audible for their support of the Take Two program as well as the Voices on the Net Network. All right, what do you say, Ronnie? We head into the past. Do you want to take a ride into the past?
Oh, let's go for a ride.
All right, here we go, folks. For episode number 282, we present to all of you your blast from the past. Enjoy. All righty. Ronnie, competition. You know, we've talked about topics. We've went into topics where competition was involved. However, this is going to be on an overall basis here. Whether competition is good, competition bad, benefit for people that are involved with sports. What about school? What about sales or retail, business? Because there are different aspects of competition, absolutely. However, there are a lot of people that feel competition is bad, but there are also a lot of people that feel it is good. So we're going to see I'm going to see where you stand with this here, because clearly we co-host a show, and even on the Voices on the Net Network, it is competing with other shows on this very network. Mm-hmm. Then you have the network competing with other networks. But then you have your favorite baseball team playing a rival, or any team for that matter. We're talking about sports now. They're competing against the other team to beat them. Now, Ronnie, where do you stand with this here? Do you feel competition is good for our society? Do you feel competition is bad for society? The differences between sports, school, sales, et cetera, et cetera?
I think competition is a great thing, and it's needed, and regardless of what area you're in or what arena you place competition in, because that drives for not only accountability, but innovation. Let's think about it within the market industry. Without competition, first of all, we would not have accountability. It'd be one driven product, and that's it. And with the competition that we have out there, look where Microsoft is. Would Microsoft be where they are today without competition? They have to add something to draw you in and hook you, that you become a fan of their product, a fan of their industry. But other industries to come along, when you have a great product, somebody wants to copy you as you go along. But competition, I think, is very healthy. It brings the best that you have of yourself. If it is a competition within a sports, because you are competing with other people of the same type of, your frame, the strengths, your weaknesses, we all bring that into it. Mm-hmm. And I think accountability, but innovation is the number one thing, because we are able to draw ourselves out, and competition is very, very healthy. Mm. There's always going to be a winner and loser, but is there really ever a loser in aspect? I mean, there's loser if you're in sports and you've lost, okay, you lost that particular game, but are you actually a loser? I think that competition actually puts you all in a winning category, because at least you went out there and did something that other people have not done. So I think that this is I love competition.
No,
challenge.
I totally understand what you're saying. A lot of people feel, and I'm not going to doubt the fact that competition bears alteration. Okay, sure. Absolutely. And not many people like change. There are people that do like change, but there are also a lot of people that do not. The differentiation of companies, of sports teams, of students, and people complain, they argue, they debate the fact that competition should not even be involved in schools. I totally disagree with that. I want competition in the classroom. Absolutely. Even if there isn't competition in the classroom, there is competition in the classroom. And there you have it, episode number 243. Ronnie and I went into that. A great discussion. If you want to check it out, go to vonthenet.com, among all of the other podcasts that are available, right on the website, vonthenet.com. Yeah, Ronnie, competition.
Yeah, I love a challenge.
I do too. All right, that's all the time Ronnie and I have for this 282nd episode of Take Two, right here on the Voices on the Net Network. We'll be back for the next episode to do it all over again for all of you. Yes. But until then, we sadly have to say so long for now. Take care, everybody. Much love to you all. Bye-bye, everybody.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.